Good morning and welcome to Christ-centered yoga. We're going to be on our backs for our starting posture this morning. So if you would like to have something to support the head, you can take a blanket or a rolled up towel and you can kind of curl up the bottom edge of that, and that'll create a little neck roll to support the back of the head. And then also, if you would like to have something underneath the backs of the knees, you can take another blanket or towel or even a bolster and kind of put that behind the knees for some additional support for the low back. So come onto your back. We're gonna come into a position where we're a little bit wider than usual. I'm just gonna go ahead and mute people. Okay, so taking the arms out to the sides with the palms facing up. Take the legs out wide as well, coming into like a star shape here, making sure that you feel supported. If there's any tension or pain in the low back, you can always bend those knees and place the feet on the floor to help, to help support the low back. Otherwise, just keep those legs extended out. Allow the pinky toes to roll toward the corners of your mat. Slide your shoulder blades toward each other and down away from those ears to begin to open up into the chest and the heart space. And then close your eyes and begin to just settle into the shape, allowing your body to just feel heavy, limp, and relaxed. Feeling all of the parts of the body that are contacting the earth. Allowing your thoughts to begin to soften, beginning to smooth out your breath. So draw that breath in through the nose, feel it move through the back of the throat and into the lungs, expanding and inflating, filling up. And as you exhale, just a gentle release, letting all of the breath go. If you're just joining us, we're in a reclined position with the arms extended out and the legs wide. Just in the shape of a star here. Allowing ourselves to imagine that we are breathing God's light and love into ourselves. Exhaling, releasing any darkness in our thoughts and our emotions, our energies that we're carrying around with us. God is light. In Him there is no darkness at all. So continue to make this exchange with every breath, really breathing into the fullness of your lungs, expanding and inflating, filling up with love and light. Exhaling, letting everything go, breathing out all of your air from the nooks and crannies of your lungs. Now perhaps there's a slight retention of the breath, breathing in maybe for a count of 3 or 4. Holding at the top of the breath for as long as you're able. And when you feel ready, just exhale to release all of the breath. Maybe even keep your mouth open to help release the jaw, the muscles of the face, the neck, the shoulders. Continue to breathe like this, inhaling, maybe to a count of 3 or 4. Pausing at the top of the breath. Exhaling, releasing, letting all of the breath go. Take your time, go slow. Really extend those exhales out and make sure you've gotten rid of all of the breath. Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16 say this. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set upon a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all of the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. These are the words of Jesus spoken in his famous Sermon on the Mount. And this section of scripture tells us that we are salt and light. We're going to look at what those things mean and how we can embody these traits in a world that needs them so much right now. For now, just sit with the words, allow them to land in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Inviting God's presence into your very essence this morning. Open and available to whatever God has to show you, to teach you, to reveal to you. Just creating space for that to happen. As you're ready, begin to bend into your knees. We're going to gather the knees toward the chest. You can have your hands below the knees or behind them. We're just going to kind of squeeze those knees into our chest, release into the low back, allowing those thighs to fall heavy toward the chest. Maybe you get really, really small here. Maybe you envision that you're like a little grain of salt. One little grain of salt can make a difference. It can help to bring God's seasoning into the world. On the inhale, let's open back up into that star shape. Feel expansive, glowing, open, spacious. Remembering that darkness is the absence of light. So wherever there's just even a flicker of light, there is now light in the room. And we are to be that light in a dark and hurting world. On the exhale, begin to draw those knees in one more time. Get really small here, like a little grain of salt. On the inhale, release the feet down, extend the arms wide, extend the legs wide in star shape. Let's do that one more time. Go ahead and bring those knees in, get small. Squeezing out all the air. And then on the inhale, go ahead and reach, opening back up. Beautiful. Bend into the knees. Let's place the feet on the outer edges of the mat. So the feet are lining up with the edges of your mat with the knees bent, with the arms out to the sides, palms facing up. And then we're just gonna slowly begin to move the knees from right to left. So exhaling as you go to the side, inhaling as you come back up. Exhaling as you go to the left. Just keep moving like this. Synchronize your breath and your movement so it feels rhythmic and easy, just flowing naturally. When we synchronize our breath and our movement, it's very reassuring to our mind, our nervous system, our body. It takes us out of fight or flight and into our rest and digest nervous system. Next time those knees go over to the right, just release them. You have the option, if this is a little too intense, to slide that left knee closer to the right. You can even place something between the legs, like a blanket or a block to support. If you want to go deeper with this, you can place the right foot on top of the left near thigh and just allow that twist to deepen. Just make sure that you keep that left shoulder grounded. Might want to lift up, so relax it back down toward the mat. And if you'd like to, you can take your gaze over your left hand, just including a little bit of a cervical twist for your neck. Breathe here. Good. Release that right foot to the floor if it's not there. Keeping the feet lined up with the edges of the mat. Let's bring those knees back up. And then we're just going to tick-tock a few times until we feel that it's complete, and we'll land with the legs pointing to the left. So settling in, making whatever adjustments you need to. So maybe you slide the right knee over toward the left, maybe you support in between the legs, maybe you want to go deeper and place that left foot on top of the right near thigh. Again, keep softening that right shoulder toward the floor. Maybe take your gaze to the right. As you breathe, make sure your jaw is nice and soft. We have a tendency to clench our teeth during times of stress, and it has been a stressful time for all of us. So just allow the breath to help release some of that tension, some of that stress that you're holding in your body. Good, we'll release that right foot back to the floor. Go ahead and bring those knees back up. And now we're gonna line our feet up just below our seat, about hip-width distance apart, with the feet pointed forward. The knees are stacking right over our ankles. Good. As much of the low back is contacting the earth as possible. So you might even need to kind of lift the hips for a moment, kind of curl the tail under to flatten the back, and then release back down so that you don't have a lot of space between the low back and the floor. And then just continue to draw that navel in toward your spine and flatten the low back. Keep those shoulders drawn back and down. You can bring the hands alongside your hips if you like. And then plugging into the feet like you're growing roots into the floor through the feet. Keeping the toes spread nice and wide. Good. On the inhale, we're going to lift the hips up toward the ceiling, coming into a bridge pose. And if you want to, you can reach the right hand overhead at the same time. As you exhale, slowly lower down one vertebrae at a time, starting at the top, and then begin to float the right hand down as well. On the inhale, we're going to lift the hips and lift the left hand up overhead. Maybe that thumb touches down, and then on the exhale, lowering the spine and then the hips as you lower the hand. Good, we're going to keep doing this 2 more times on each side. So inhaling, lifting, right arm lifts overhead. Exhaling, lowering. Imagine your vertebrae are like little pearls on a string. You're releasing one at a time as you lower down. So really slow and intentional here. On the inhale, the left arm is going to lift, hips lift, and then exhaling, slowly lower down. Beautiful. One more time each side. Reaching up. And exhaling, lowering. Beautiful. And then last time on the left. And exhale, lower. Good. We're going to take the right knee in toward our chest. And just begin to circle that knee around. So we're starting to open into that hip joint. The hands can be below the knee or behind it to help guide that knee as you circle it. Do it a few times in one direction and then reverse it, take it in the other direction. Good. Allow that knee to come toward your right armpit, just opening up that right hip. Now, if you want to, you can do a half of a wide open A. We can straighten into that right leg and open it out to the right. So you choose. Maybe you have that knee tucked in toward your armpit, or maybe you're opening up. The hand can be to the inside of that thigh or to the outside to support it if the leg is extended. And you might decide that you want to add some movement to the foot or the ankle. So maybe you're pointing and flexing, or maybe you're circling the foot. If you're circling, just go in both directions, allowing this practice to be what you need it to be this morning. Good. Wherever you are, we're going to begin to bring our right ankle just above our left knee with the right foot flexed. And then we're going to encourage that right knee forward. So you can even use your right hand to gently push into that right thigh, begin to open into that hip. Now you can stay here, or if it's available, begin to interlace the hands around the backside of that left leg. You might even curl up and bring your forehead toward your shin. Keep flexing that foot. Or maybe you choose to lay down and rock from side to side to really begin to open into those hips. Lots of breath. We hold so much stuff in our hips. It's an opportunity for us to release that, as well as the low back. Good. Now again, that left foot might be on the floor, the left leg might be floating. Regardless, let's go ahead and interlace our hands behind our head gently. And we're just barely holding the head just to support it. Keep the elbows nice and wide. On the exhale, lift the chest and draw your left knee closer to your chest. Or maybe you're just lifting the upper body if that left foot is on the floor. On the inhale, lower back down. If the foot is floating, maybe touch that left foot down to the floor if that feels okay. Exhaling, squeezing, lifting. Maybe bringing that left knee in toward your chest. Inhaling, lowering. So we're getting some core work here as we're deepening the twist. I like things where we're multitasking a little bit. We're getting a lot of bang for the buck. So really make sure that core is engaged to protect your spine, but also to strengthen the core. And exhale. Good. One more. And squeeze it out. Nice job. Go ahead and float the foot to the floor, float the right foot back to the floor, and then we're going to release our hands to bring our left knee in. So now we're interlacing around the left shin or behind the knee, and then begin to circle that leg. The right foot is on the floor with the knee bent. I'm going to go in a few times in one direction, then a few times in the other. And maybe you want to draw that left knee toward the armpit. Keep breathing. Maybe you want to open that leg out to the side. You can bring your hand, like I said, to the inside or the outside of that left leg. And then maybe you bring some movement to the foot, pointing or flexing, circling, whatever feels good to you. Going in both directions if you're circling. Good. And into that knee, let's bring the left ankle just above the right knee, flexing the foot, and then gently encourage that left knee forward. So maybe you push your left hand into your left thigh, or just in your mind's eye, you're moving that knee forward. If it's available, interlace the fingers behind that right leg. Maybe you come up, or maybe you stay down and rock side to side, whatever feels good for your body. This rocking feels really good to mine today. Coming back to the center. Interlace your hands behind your head. Again, that right foot can be on the floor or it can be floating with the foot flexed. On the exhale, squeeze and lift the chest up toward the ceiling or toward your leg. On the inhale, lower down. Maybe if you're floating the right foot, you float it back down to the floor. On the exhale, squeeze and lift. Moving with your breath at your own pace and rhythm. Beautiful. Slowly float back down, unravel those legs, draw the knees into your chest one more time. And then you're gonna rock a few times side to side until you find yourself on one side or the other. And just pause for a moment in a fetal position. So I want to break down the meaning of the salt of the earth. You are the salt of the earth. And so here, when we think of salt, we know that salt is added to food to bring out its natural flavors, right? To enhance the flavors that are already there. But in addition to that, it actually preserves food. So it's a preservative, but it's on a metaphorical level, it's a symbol of lasting concord because it protects food from putrefaction and preserves it unchanged. So it's about a lasting concord, a ratification of compacts or agreements between individuals. It also means wisdom and grace exhibited in speech. And the Greek word that I'm defining here is halos, as it's used in this verse in Matthew. So when we think about us being, the salt of the earth, we're there to help bring out the natural flavors. We're there to be a preservative, a lasting concord or agreement between us and other individuals and between us and God. But also, it's that wisdom and grace that's exhibited in our speech. So when our speech is sprinkled with salt, it means that we are exhibiting grace and wisdom as we speak. Take a moment and kind of think about that. Is my speech sprinkled with salt? Do I bring out the God-given flavors in those around me? Are my agreements long-lasting? We're going to slowly begin to come up, finding our way to all fours. And if you have a blanket or a towel that you'd like to place underneath the knees for support for the knees, please feel free to do that. So we'll bring the knees directly underneath the hips. And then we're going to walk our hands forward, keeping the fingers fanned wide. So the index fingers point toward the front of the room or toward the corners of the mat, but they're at least shoulder width distance apart. And so we're going to move back and forth between like a modified up dog and a child's pose. So bring those hips forward. Make sure you're not dumping into the shoulders. So move the heart forward through the arms. And then on the exhale, gently press back, lengthening the spine, bringing the seat back toward the heels. We're going to keep moving like this. Your tops of your feet can be on the mat. So it gives you a little bit of grounding. Exhaling, pressing back. Opening the chest. Just keep rocking back and forth like this a few times. Exhaling. Beautiful. The next time you come back, you might want to take those knees a little wider, bring the toes together, and press your seat back toward your heels into child's pose. And shift and move to sink into the shape. Now, if you're healing in your knees, You can always do a blanket behind the knees and only come down as much as feels safe for your body. You can have the arms outstretched, really lengthen here. Or if you need to support the head, you can stack the hands and place the forehead on the hands. So an example of this idea of our speech being sprinkled with salt shows up in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. It says, "Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person." Let your speech be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. When we think in terms of conversations that we have with people, sprinkling our speech with salt means that it's going to be filled with grace and wisdom, and will give us the ability to know how to respond to each person differently. Slowly begin to rise up. We're going to allow those knees to come directly underneath our hips with the toes tucked under. Good. Press your chest back toward your thighs, keeping those fingers fanned wide, and begin to push the mat forward with your hands energetically. We're not actually pushing the mat forward, but really press into the hands to push forward. As you do that, draw your shoulders away from the ears, lift from the underside of your belly, and then begin to lift the knees. Hips are coming up and back. Ears are to the insides of the biceps, the spine is nice and long. And then we're just going to start to walk out our dog. If this is too much, or it's just not your practice today, go ahead and just bring those knees back down, coming back into a child's pose, or maybe a half dog, where you're in tabletop, but you walk the arms forward to open the chest. Beautiful job. Bend into those knees, and then we'll all find our way to the front of our mat. So maybe you walk forward, maybe you step forward, maybe you take your time and kind of tippy-toe forward. Feet will be about hip-width distance apart. Bend those knees deeply. Let your belly and your rib cage rest on your thighs, and then release the head. Maybe shake your head a little bit, side to side, loosening into the head, neck, and shoulders. Good. Beautiful job. Plug into all four corners of your feet. And then on your inhale, press your hands to your shins. Let's lift halfway for length. Shoulders away from those ears. Crown is moving forward, tail is sliding back. Lots of breath here. On the exhale, gently fold. Maybe you're even rounding the spine a little bit, but the belly is to the thighs. Like a little bit of a cat pose. Inhale, lift the hands. Coming up halfway, lengthening the spine. Exhale, fold it out. Good, one more time like that. Inhaling, hands to the shins, lift halfway for length. And exhale, fold it out. Beautiful. On the inhale, we're gonna lift halfway. Maybe place a block underneath the hands if you'd like to. So you may have the hands on the floor, or you might have the hands on a block. Good. We're gonna ground down into that left foot, and then begin to kick the right foot back. So you might want hands down on the floor if it's available. The toes are gonna point down on that right foot so the hips are nice and level. You may have a little bit of a bend in that left knee just to give you a little spring, a little balance. Good, keep that spine long and straight. On the exhale, bring that knee in, let's tuck and round. Inhale, extend the legs straight back. Exhale, squeeze it in, maybe you tuck and round here. Inhale, extend that leg back. Exhale. Inhale. Beautiful. Bend into that left knee. Let's float the right foot all the way back, coming onto the ball of that back foot. Good. Here's a great place for blocks. So if you'd like to bring the hands to blocks, you might. Good. And we're going to toe heel our left foot to the left just slightly so we're not on a tightrope or like we're on imaginary train tracks. And the knee is stacking over the ankle. And then we're just going to kind of rock back and forth a little bit. Starting to loosen into those hips. Beautiful job. Nice. Go ahead and float that right knee down. So the top of the foot can be to the mat or the toes can be tucked under. And then bring your hands to the top of your knee. Good. We're going to lengthen through the spine here as we sink into this shape. You might even have your forearm on your thigh. And then we're just kind of releasing this right hip forward and down at the same time. Keep that spine long and straight, shoulders away from the ears. Beautiful. On the inhale, reach those arms up overhead. Keep releasing the shoulders away from the ears. Good. On the inhale, drop back and kind of slide the hands back. So we're pressing back a little bit. On the inhale, come forward and reach the arms up. We're just going to keep moving like this, if that feels okay for your body. And then sink back down as the arms come up. Good. A couple more like this. And exhale. Nice job. Float those hands down to the floor. We're going to bring the hands to the inside of the foot, with the hands stacking directly underneath our shoulders here. Good. We're going to do little mini push-ups. So bring the elbows back toward your rib cage as you lower down, but without rounding, so that the shoulders stay away from the ears, and then we're going to lift back up, keeping a long, straight spine. Letting the elbows come in toward your rib cage. Good. Now you can stay down, or if it's available, maybe release your forearms down to the floor or down to the blocks. And the blocks can be on any level. So if you want to have them higher up, you can just place them on their ends and then bring the arms, the elbows to the blocks here. So here's the thing about salt. If you've ever cooked with salt, like we all do, right? If we add too much salt, it ruins the food. Right? So we always need a little bit to bring out the flavors of the food, but if we put too much in, then it's no good. And so there's this delicate place of having it be just enough, not too little, not too much. And so when we think about our speech and how this applies to our conversations with people, we want to make sure that we're not overdoing it. I think that's where grace comes in, right? And wisdom. Wisdom is discernment. It's knowledge applied. So how much do we say? What do we say? We don't want to overdo it and then have it leave that nasty aftertaste, right? So think about that in the way that you interact with other people. We're going to lift up, coming back onto our hands. Bring the hands on opposite sides once again. And then tuck your back toes, lifting the hips high. Good. Now, we're going to step the back foot forward a little bit and then begin to straighten into our front leg, coming into a pyramid pose. Now, if you would rather, you can keep that right knee down and you can just kind of fold over the legs here. But if that foot is on the floor, we're going to start grounding into our right foot as we straighten our front leg. Adjust your blocks as needed so that you have a nice long straight spine here. And we're trying to plug into that back foot. That might mean you have to come forward a little bit more. Hips are squaring to the front of the room, shoulders away from those ears. And then on the exhale, let's fold over that leg. Keep breathing. Beautiful job. On the inhale, lift halfway. We're going to keep our hand on a block right underneath our right shoulder. Take your left hand and kind of hook it into your left hip crease. We're going to slide that hip back as we lengthen the spine forward. Crown moves forward, and then that left hip is kind of drawing in and back. Take the left arm out to the side like a wing and keep that sensation going. And you can stay here, or you can begin to rotate your torso. This is a big stretch. Reaching the fingertips up toward the ceiling. Keep drawing that left hip in and back. It will help. Lots of breath here. If this is not working for you, you just stay at that lower version with the arm out to the side and keep drawing that left hip in and back. On the exhale, float that hand back down. We're going to bend into the front knee, walk the hands forward, and we're going to kick up our back leg once again. Good. Little bend in that left knee, and then gently float that right foot to the floor, about hip-width distance apart. Bend into both knees, fold over the legs. Nice, let's lengthen the spine. So inhale, sweep, coming all the way up to standing. Lengthen here. Beautiful job. Maybe even stretch into those hips by pushing those hips forward, but keep the core engaged to protect that back. Hands can be at heart center, closer to the center of the body. Will make it less intense of a stretch. On the exhale, bring the hands to your heart center. Good, we're going to do a little intermission, half sun series A. Inhale, sweep those arms up before we pick up that other side. Bend the knees, exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift halfway for length. Exhale, fold it out. Inhale, sweep, ride that breath all the way up to standing. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Good. Inhale, sweep, arms lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift all the way up to standing. Maybe adding a little back bend. Exhale, hands to heart. Good. Pause here for a moment in mountain pose. Grounding down evenly into both feet. Maybe even bring your hands alongside those hips, rolling the shoulders back and down. Check in. Heart is lifting, chin is parallel to the floor, crown is lifting. So I want to spend some time now moving into what it means to be the light of the world, a city on a hill. So the word light here is the Greek word phos, like phosphorus. And the definition says that God is light because light has the extremely delicate, subtle, pure, and brilliant quality. It also means of truth and knowledge, together with the spiritual purity associated with it. And that which is exposed to the view of all. It also means reason, mind, the power of understanding, moral or spiritual truth. So when we think about us being the light of the world, now we're talking about that subtle light that is delicate, pure, and brilliant, that draws people in like a moth to a flame. It also means truth and knowledge and spiritual purity, and also the power of understanding moral and spiritual truth. It also exposes things that are done in the dark. So when we are light on the hill, this is what we're doing. We're drawing people into that space with us. We're going to begin to sweep those arms up overhead. Take a bend in those knees, fold it out. Again, hands can come to the floor or to blocks, your choice. We're gonna pick up that left foot and extend it back. Toes are gonna point down. Take a slight bend in that right knee. And then on the exhale, hug that knee in, squeeze it in. Inhale, extend it back. Good, we're gonna move like this a few times, exhaling, squeezing it in. Inhale, extend it back. Exhale. Inhale. This time, float that foot all the way back, bringing the hands to blocks or to the floor in a low runner's lunge. And then we're just gonna set ourselves up. So move the right foot over a little bit so you feel nice and balanced and stable. Right knee stacking over the ankle, hands right underneath those shoulders. And then we're just gonna kind of rock back and forth a little bit. Maybe rolling to the tippy toes and then rolling back. Nice job. Keep breathing. Come back to the center and let's release that left knee down. Top of the foot can come to the mat or you can keep the toes tucked. And then begin to lift the chest. So you can bring your forearm to the thigh or you can bring hands to the thigh and begin to stack ears over shoulders, shoulders over the hips. Nice long straight spine here. Beautiful. If it's available, inhale to bring those arms up. And then draw the arms back. Exhaling, coming forward, reaching the arms up. Inhale, opening up. Exhale. Inhale. Beautiful. Exhale. Float those hands down. Bring the hands to the inside of that foot. Hands will be directly under the shoulders, about shoulder width distance apart, excuse me. And then on the exhale, melt here. Nice long straight spine. Inhale, come up. Little baby push-ups, the elbows come straight back, keeping the spine long and straight. Inhale, keeping the spine long and straight on the way up. Breathe. Nice, if it's available, maybe you begin to bring the forearms down to the blocks. Again, you can adjust the blocks on whatever level. So you might be here. Keep breathing. Release the shoulders away from those ears as you melt into the shape. So there's a book by Charles Stanley called The Wonderful Spirit-Filled Life. It's one of the best books I ever read about the Holy Spirit. And he talks about us as being that kind of light, like a beacon of light, or like a lighthouse that helps bring people in from the dark, to help bring them to solid ground. And he said that our light should be warm and inviting. It shouldn't be overpowering. It shouldn't be like a flashlight or a spotlight in your face. So when we speak the truth, when we speak truth and knowledge and wisdom, we want to do it in such a way that it's inviting to people, not where it's, blasting them in the face like a spotlight. So how can we do that? Slowly begin to bring your hands up. We're going to bring the hands back to opposite sides of that front leg. And we're going to tuck the back toes if that's available. Again, if you want to come into pyramid here, you can keep the knee down and just slide the hips back, straightening into that leg. Otherwise, lift that back knee, step the foot forward a little bit. We're going to start straightening into our front leg. So the feet might not be as wide, so you might need to kind of toe heel that foot closer. And then we're going to lift halfway here. Hips and shoulders shine forward and they're level. Nice long straight spine. Keep hugging that left hip back. The right hip back and in. The left hip will kind of sculpt forward. Good, if it's available, we're going to stack that left hand right underneath the left shoulder. Bring the right hand to the hip crease and begin to hug that right hip in and back. So you might just stay here and begin to rotate. Or you might decide to take the arm out to the side and begin to reach the fingertips up. Wherever you are is perfect. Keep breathing. So rotating, twisting gives us a different view, different way of looking at things. Kind of brings out our old stuff. Bringing out a dirty washcloth. On the exhale, gently float that hand back down. Bend into the front knee. And then we're going to walk those hands forward again. And then pick up that left leg. Keep breathing. On that exhale, bend the knee and float that foot down so the feet are about hip-width distance apart. And fold over those legs. On the inhale, sweep high, ride that breath all the way up to standing. And then bring your hands back to heart center. We're going to step the feet wide, so you might choose to orient yourself sideways on your mat. Not super wide, but a little wider than shoulder width distance apart. Take the arms out to the side, shoulders away from your ears. And we're going to begin to shift over to that right foot so that the left toes are just barely touching. And then begin to pick up that leg into falling star. So we're going to start hinging like we're falling. Just shining that beautiful light of Christ. Remembering that darkness is the absence of light. We want to bring light. A warm, glowing, inviting light. Keep breathing. On the inhale, slowly come back up. We're going to ground down into that left foot now. Begin to shift over. So the right toes are just touching to give us some stability as we begin to lift that leg and go to the other side. Keep breathing. Let your little heart light shine. This little light of mine is coming into my mind now. Sorry if I did that to you. You'll probably be singing it all day. All right, exhale. Float that foot back down. We're going to angle the toes in slightly, keeping those feet wide. Slide the hips back. Keep your heart open, shoulders back and down as we just fold over our legs and a little wide forward fold. Ephesians chapter 5 says, in verses 1 and 2 says, therefore be imitators of God as beloved children and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God. Imitators of God. God is light. In him there is no darkness. And so we reflect the light of the sun like the moon would. We aren't the source of the light. We are reflectors of the light. We are image bearers and light bearers. On the inhale, let's lift halfway for length. And then we'll toe heel the feet toward each other. So if you have a blanket, you might move it out of the way. Bend into those knees and slowly come down onto your seat. You might bring the edge of the seat to the edge of the blanket. It goes on to say, starting in verse 8, go ahead and extend those legs out, sorry. I'll give it to you in just a second. Let's get set up. Move the tissue out of the way, lengthen through the spine, shoulders away from those ears. Good. We're going to pick up our left knee. We're going to cross it over the right. So you can leave the foot on the floor with the knee pointed out. You could have the foot on the floor to the inside if you feel like you're leaning, or you can even slide that heel more toward your hips. So we're starting to stack the knees into like a modified cow face. If you want to come into full cow face, bend your leg and bring the other heel to the opposite side of your other hip. So now the heels are lining up with the edges of your hips or thighs, stacking those knees. Whatever variation you want to be at is perfect. And then we'll go ahead and bring the left hand to the thigh, wherever we are. Extend the right arm up. Then begin to rotate your torso, so belly, chest, then head. Float that hand down. Keep lengthening through the spine as you lengthen into the twist. So Paul continues in verses 18 through 14. For at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of the light. For the fruit of light is found in all that is good and right and true. And try to discern what is pleasing to the Lord. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness. Instead, expose them. For it is shameful even to speak of the things they do in secret. But when anything is exposed by the light, it becomes visible. For anything that becomes visible is light. Therefore it says, awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will shine upon you. Slowly begin to unravel that twist. And then we're going to extend the legs out wherever we are. Shake them out for a second here. Good. Bring that left foot in. Again, you can keep the left foot on the floor here. We can cross it over. You can go ahead and bring that foot toward your hip, stacking the knees. You can even bend into your bottom leg and begin to stack the knees with the hips, heels lining up with your hips. Either way, we want to make sure we're grounded, tall, lengthening here. And then take your right hand to your thigh, reach that left arm up, shoulder stays back and down, and begin to rotate your torso over to the left, floating that hand down, lengthening the spine. Your gaze will follow the twist. Keep breathing here. So at one point, at one time, we too walked in darkness, but now we're called to walk as children of the light. And I love that it says, the fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true. We are the light of the world. We are a reflection of God's image here. Keeping the length, slowly begin to unravel the twist, coming back to center. Unravel those legs, shake them out. Good, and then we'll bend into the knees and roll onto our back. Draw those knees into the chest, give them a nice squeeze. Good, rock a few times, side to side, or if there's anything else you need to complete your practice, feel free to do whatever you need to do. And then come into a full body stretch, if that sounds inviting to you. Lengthen the entire body. Feel all that space that you created for light to fill. All those little nooks and crannies, all the space that is now open and available. Imagine that we are like little solar cells. We just absorb God's light and then we reflect it back. We stay tapped into the source, that constant exchange, that constant filling. And then come back into that star shape. Twinkle lights in the sky, arms out. You can feel free to support the head or the back of the neck. Just settle into your final rest pose. Let these words just kind of sink in. In John chapter 1, starting in verse 1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Let us be that light that shines in the darkness. The darkness has not and will not overcome it, because darkness is the absence of light. Settle in for these final moments of rest, just tapping into the source, absorbing God's light, being filled to the point where you are radiant and glowing, like Moses when he came off of the mountain or came out of the tent of meeting, and his face shined brightly. As you're ready, you begin to wiggle fingers and toes. Maybe shift and move a little side to side. Gathering your knees toward your chest. Begin to rock side to side, allowing yourself to be a little wobbly. Can be a delicate place to know how to be salt that is not too salty, how to be light that is not too bright. But God is there to guide us every step of the way. As you're ready, begin to brush yourself up, finding a seated position. Bring your hands to your heart center. Take a few breaths here, just filling up. Perhaps you want to open your palms, breathing in through the nose, Breathing out, just salt, love, and light to the world. Just offering that up. Maybe a couple more like that. Bring your hands back to heart center. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, you tell us that we are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Help us find that balance where we are, in fact, adding something in terms of gracious speech and wisdom. Let us be that light that is inviting, that is drawing people home, without us being too salty, too bright, or not enough. And we know that you are there to guide us, to assist us. As image bearers, Lord, we want to resemble you. Help us know, which words to speak, who to speak them to, and how to say them. And let us be that light of hope, just a flicker of a flame that never, ever goes out. Love you, and we thank you. And we lift this up in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all for being with me today. Go ahead and shift here.